Welcome back to Process. Before we begin, just a quick reminder that you have just a couple of days left to enter the Process Episode 50 giveaway. I'll put a link in the show notes for instructions on how to do that, but definitely encourage you to sign up, and Process Episode 50 will drop next week on Friday. I wanted to spend a little bit of time addressing a mindset that I've seen haunting myself and others for quite some time. We talked about it a little bit last week, and it's this philosophy that there must be one tool in your productivity system that can handle almost everything. And this honestly was the mindset for a long time in the productivity space. All of your tasks have to be in OmniFocus. All of your reference material must be in Evernote, et cetera, et cetera. You got to have this one bucket that everything has to go into. For example, I was having a conversation with someone else the other day, and they said they were hardcore into putting every email into their task manager, even if they had hundreds of emails to deal with. Can you imagine what that would be like if you had 100 emails or multiple hundreds of emails that you were clipping to your OmniFocus inbox or your Todoist inbox every single day, and then having to go back in and process every single one of those and respond to them or do something with them? This person was even telling me that they were resisting ideas of using features inside of mail applications like Mailbox or Spark, like Snooze. That is, until they realized the power of the tools that they had at hand. The way I see it is that you can either have a one-tool system or a system of many tools. Think about that for a second. You can have a one-tool system, so you can say, all my tasks have to go into OmniFocus. Or you can have a system of many tools where you can say, my projects and certain tasks end up in OmniFocus. Some of them are in my paper system. Some of them are in Things. Some of them are in my email inbox, but they're all part of the same system, a system of many tools. Personally, I think that you're better off building a system of tools than trying to fit it all in one place. And here's why. First, having a system of many tools actually gives you more flexibility. For me, this means that I can write tasks down in my bullet journal, drafts, or OmniFocus. It doesn't necessarily mean that every single task that I have is going to migrate its way into OmniFocus before I get it done. But as long as it's in the system, and here's the key, that I review the system, I'll have that task available to me. Also, some tools offer better features for certain circumstances than others. In the email context, Spark, for example, handles email way better than OmniFocus does because it's an email client. Granted, if there is an email that I need to respond to 3 weeks down the road, I might clip that or forward it into OmniFocus and have it surface at that time so that I don't have to think about it in the email system, but I can also use snoozing for that. That's the beauty of the flexibility of having a multiple tool system. Also, sometimes you need a different context for different tasks. So for me, Notion in my system serves that purpose for planning, where OmniFocus is my structured action environment. I used to try to do my planning and my 50,000 foot view and my goals and my life mission and all of that stuff inside of OmniFocus. And that absolutely fell apart. And here's why. OmniFocus is a structured tool. It's an outline, essentially. And an outline is not necessarily the best place to be creative, especially when it's an outline of tasks and limited to tasks. Conversely, looking at Notion isn't necessarily the best place to put a structured task list, but it is extremely flexible and shapeable and moldable to your need. And so that's why I use that for broader picture planning, my goals, project incubation, things that need a little bit more time to crystallize from a nebulous state in my mind. They go into Notion primarily. And granted, those things might be in drafts as well, or they might be inside of MindNode, but they're in the system that I have defined for myself. Now, the key to holding a system like this together, a system of tools, is the review. Everything needs to be updated, and you need to make sure that everything is in the right place, or at least aware of where it is. That's why I get fairly rigid with my reviews. I'm not like super hardcore, but my reviews are fairly broken down based upon the frequency they are anyway, at looking at the different tools that I have chosen to have in my system. I'm not just willy-nilly adding tools to my system to say, oh, hey, things looks cool. I want to try that. I'm going to incorporate it into my system. Hey, Todoist is here too. Every tool that I have in my system for productivity purposes is there for a reason. I use OmniFocus to store my structured project and task information. I use MindNode for my brainstorming and content generation, outlines, and things like that. Drafts is a place where it's kind of a scratch pad. I tend to think of it more as a longer term, short term memory. I use Notion for planning and incubation and knowledge base type stuff. And there's a couple more tools in there as well that help augment the system and keep it going. But the key, again, is the review. I'm making sure that every single time that I sit down for a review, I am looking at the appropriate tools. So in my daily review, I'm looking through my task list. I'm looking through drafts. I'm looking through my bullet journal. Those are the places that I'm engaging with on a daily basis. And then on a weekly basis, I'm looking at the broader system. I'm looking through Notion. I'm looking through MindNode. I'm looking through the other tools as well, but trying to get a little bit higher of a perspective. And then on my monthly review, I'm looking through every single tool that I have and making sure that it's set up the right way, making sure all the information is in the right place, making sure all my files are filed in the right place, using Hazel or other places, other things that I need to take care of, and so on and so forth. The scale kind of goes up in a multi-tool system throughout the review process, and that's because you need to get up a little higher every time you do those broader time span reviews. Those things help you pull it all together. I'm hoping to make a video about these review processes in the future so you can see, I can walk you through the different checklists that I'm using for these reviews at a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or seasonally, like I like to call it, an annual basis. So I would encourage you today, if you're struggling with everything needing to be in one tool, maybe you need to back up a little bit. Maybe there's other tools that you can pull into your system that you can start to incorporate that will handle things better for different contexts and different circumstances. Again, if you're struggling with planning and you're trying to do it inside of your task manager, try to pull it out into a different tool. If you don't like Notion, try Drafts or try Paper, try MindNode, try something else for it and see what sticks. As we've talked about multiple times on this podcast, productivity is an iterative process. You're constantly making changes and modifications to your system so that you can adapt to your life's needs at a given moment in time. You might need something in one season and you might not need it in the next. The whole point is you start where you are and you make changes from there. You don't have to have it all figured out up front. Now, if you're one of the people listening to this who has put everything into OmniFocus and has everything in Evernote or similar tools, that's great. I'm super glad that you found something that worked for you. But I know that's not the case for all of us. You might be somebody who is wrestling with this. And so I would just encourage you today to take a step back. Start thinking of your productivity system as a system instead of the tools. I think it's incredibly beneficial to get above the tool level thinking and get yourself to a place of system level thinking. When you start to look at the tools being a part of a system and the system being processes that can handle the information that is involved in your life at this point in time, it becomes a lot easier to manage it all across your entire system. So instead of getting stuck in this place where you're looking for the perfect tool to do all the things, maybe back up and try to find multiple tools that can do lots of different things well across all of them. You're a lot more likely to build the perfect system for you than to find the perfect tool for you. I hope you found this episode helpful. And if you're looking to have more conversation on it, head on over to the community at community.effectiveremotework.com for a discussion topic. There's a link in the show notes, and I hope to see you there.